A young doctor was taken to a community by a scary man, but what he wanted from her moved her. Hello. Welcome. Like, subscribe and turn on notifications. Jeremias, you're wrong. Rosanna, irritated, looked at her husband as if she could calm him down with a look. How long have you been jealous of me? We've lived together for 5 years. Wasn't that enough time for you to trust my decency? I saw it all with my own eyes, the man shouted. What did you see? Alexander and I are just colleagues. He's a doctor and so am I. We were in the office with the door unlocked. What more do you want? You were sitting together on the couch? Oh my God. We were just reviewing our patient's medical records. Yes, on the couch. What's the problem? Did you have to punch him for that? I didn't punch him. So what do you call it? Well, I punched him because he put his hand on your knee and was getting too close. Rosanna covered her face with her hand. Enough. I can't take this anymore. I'm tired. The boss saw Alexander with a bruise under his eye and gave me an unplanned vacation because of him, possibly leading to a subsequent dismissal. Are you happy now? I'm almost out of a job. I earn a good living. I'm a doctor. Now I have to stay home and wait for you to bring me your salary? Jeremiah, wake up. You're wrong. I'm right and you know it, Jeremiah said, interrupting her. He knew he had gone too far, but he couldn't admit it to his wife. And Rosanna had already gone to her room, slamming the door loudly. Jeremiah knew she would forgive him and decided to wait a little until she calmed down. It was useless to confront his wife in this state, just as it was useless to continue that conversation. But he couldn't resist. He went to his wife's office and saw her there with the handsome Dr. Alexander. His jealousy closed his mind instantly. And Jeremiah attacked his wife's colleague without understanding what was happening. He had always been impulsive. His character and past work influenced him. Jeremiah had served in a special forces unit for almost 10 years. There, he was taught not to be kind to anyone. Now, Jeremiah worked as the head of a private security company, but his old habits and brashness remained. However, Rosanna believed that this interfered with their personal lives. However, Jeremiah didn't know how to deal with jealousy. He grabbed his jacket and left the apartment, deciding to get some fresh air. On the way back, she bought Rose's and Rosanna's favorite chocolate cake. Rosanna, at 30 years old, was thin, looked like a thin teenager, and no one could guess that she had a huge craving for sweets and simply couldn't live without chocolate. Jeremiah was gone for about an hour, and when he returned, the apartment shook with silence. Rosanna, please forgive me. Let's make peace. Go to the kitchen. I bought you a cake. Do you want me to go see Alexander and apologize tomorrow after work? And I'll explain everything to your boss. Rosanna didn't answer. Jeremias, worried about her silence, went into the room and saw a note on the bathroom sink. Rosanna wrote that she had gone to her mother's house and that they would live apart for the time being. Jeremiah ran into the hallway to go to the station, but at that moment, he received a call from work demanding that he come urgently because of some problems that had arisen there. Jeremiah called his wife's number, but the phone was switched off. Okay, I will solve the problems and come to you personally, he promised to the portrait of his wife hanging on the wall. Sorry, I just love you too much. Meanwhile, Rosanna arrived at her mother's house. But, in order not to worry her, she didn't complain about her husband, saying that she just decided to visit her and rest. They had lunch together, and then Rosanna decided to go to the local paramedic station where her friend and classmate, Teodora, worked. She could talk to her about everything and let it all out. Teodora was raising her young daughter alone, and things didn't work out with her husband, so she could understand Rosanna better than anyone else. Teodora was happy to see Rosanna. She hugged me tightly and said, "Listen, I don't have time today, but the work day isn't over yet. Let's do it this way, put the kettle on and I'll quickly go to an address where I need to do some work on an elderly person, because I was just about to leave. I'm glad you got here on time. On the way back, I'll stop by our local bakery. She makes cakes and various sweets. She always has treats ready. I'll buy something and come back in 20 minutes. Then we can talk properly. Anyway, I left my daughter with her grandmother for a few days. Then no one will bother us." Rosanna laughed and agreed with Teodora. "Hurry, just don't be late. I can't wait to talk to you." "Yes, I'll be quick." The taxi driver turned to her and said seriously, "It's far. But don't worry, I think we'll get there in time." It was only then that Rosanna realized the mistake she made. She was with a stranger in a deep forest where no one could help her. "What do you want?" she cried. "Why did you deceive me?" "I didn't deceive you," said the man. And suddenly, with a quick movement, he pressed a handkerchief to Rosanna's nose. She screamed, dropped her briefcase, and fainted in her attacker's arms. When Rosanna regained consciousness, she realized she was being carried, and it was impossible to call for help. Who could hear her in the forest? In the pitch darkness, tears streamed from her eyes. She tried to move to feel how immobilized she was. "Don't try anything or I'll have to silence you again," the man said. She sobbed and remained silent, feeling the headaches, her hands and feet still. The branches often lashed. He walked with such certainty that Rosanna realized that he knew all the paths in the forest. Escaping him would not be easy. But suddenly, a dog barked, followed by knocking. A few minutes later, the bearded man took her to a cabin and threw her on a bed. "Stay there. I'll be right back," he said in a hoarse voice. "Don't make any noise, or I'll finish you off. Understood?" Rosanna nodded silently. It seemed like an eternity had passed before he returned. During that time, she thought about her husband, Kleber. He was strong and brave. He always defended her, if it weren't for his jealous ways. But deep down, he never intimidated her, even when he was jealous. She never gave him any reason. However, sometimes, the looks from men bothered her. It was natural, right? Of course, he overreacted when he saw her with Alexander on the couch. On the other hand, who knows how she would react seeing Kleber next to another woman? How foolish I was, Rosanna thought. She should have talked to Kleber. He loves me and I love him very much. What will become of me now? He will find me again. Is this the end? Confirming her thoughts, the door opened and the stranger's strong hands shook her. The ropes binding her feet fell to the dirt floor. "Come on," he ordered. Rosanna, eyes wide with terror, was pushed into a hot, humid room. It looked like a sauna. "Come," the man ordered. She shook her head. He looked at her in surprise and, realizing what she was thinking, showed his teeth. "Don't be afraid. I'm not the one who needs it. It's my wife. She's in difficult labor. I'm afraid she's going to die." Rosanna screamed when he removed the gag. She asked him to untie her and give her water. He silently obeyed. "You are all crazy. Why did you bring me here against my will? And now you want my help," Rosanna said. He looked ready to explode, but he knelt down and said, "We can't go to the hospital here. We have other rules. My father heals the sick here. He is the leader of our community." But he couldn't help Monica. Rosanna asked to see Monica and was taken to her. "I'll help," she promised. After long hours, Rosanna fought for the life of Monica and the baby. And then there was a small cry from Monica's newborn son. Rosanna cut the umbilical cord, examined the child, cleaned him, wrapped him in a clean cloth, handed him to the farmer, told him what to do, and returned to her wife. It was already dawn when Rosanna, exhausted, smiled weakly at Emmanuel. "Everything is fine. Monica is sleeping, but she will wake up soon. Make her some hot tea and something to eat. She needs to regain her strength. The baby is too big for her. We were lucky there were no complications. Your baby is practically a giant." Rosanna leaned over the sleeping baby. "And so cute." Emmanuel knelt before Rosanna and held out his arms to her, saying, "Thank you for everything." Suddenly, there was a loud knock on the door and a muffled male voice demanded, "Open up." Emmanuel quickly got up and ran around the room. Then he opened a kind of trapdoor in the floor and quickly hid Rosanna inside. "Be quiet, please," she whispered pleadingly to her. "If we don't have any problems." Rosanna realized that she was in some kind of hole and complained in fear. Isn't it over yet? She heard voices above, including female voices. Rosanna lay down silently, resting her head on her hands and falling asleep, unable to resist exhaustion and nervousness. She dreamed of Kleber. He was walking along the seashore towards her, holding the little one in his arms who was babbling and laughing. And Rosanna was laughing too. Little did she know that at that moment, Kleber had arrived in town and was running through every street asking if anyone had seen his wife. Theodora, nervous, didn't understand what was happening and how Rosanna had disappeared. She didn't immediately notice that her doctor's bag was missing. When she did, she ran to Kleber. "We need to report this to the police," she said. "I've been there and they say they can only register after 3 days and no one will start looking before that. They think that Rosanna, being an adult woman, may have left of her own free will or perhaps she found another man." "That's ridiculous," Theodora exclaimed. "I know her. She wouldn't do that." "I know my wife too," Kleber said. "Sure, I've always been crazy with jealousy, but I never believed Rosanna was actually capable of this. No, something else is going on here. She disappeared with her bag. Rosanna is a doctor. That means someone probably needed help. Tell me, Theodora, are there people here who could use help? Maybe she went to an old woman somewhere." "Think, Theodora, think. You know the area well. You should be able to guess where my wife might have gone." Theodora shook her head in disbelief. "I can't imagine what happened here. If Rosanna left, she did it voluntarily. Everything is in place, no signs of a struggle. This means she was not kidnapped. But the people here are peaceful, kind, and calm. I've never heard of anyone hurting anyone else, although, wait. I heard that a community has established itself in some isolated place. I don't know if it's a cult or something." Kleber stood up. "Where are they located? I need to go there. Let me take you to Mr. Renat. He is our most avid hunter. He knows the area like the back of his hand and will not refuse to help you." Mr. Renat proved to be a firm, elderly man with kind, clear eyes. "It's not a cult. They are people who have rejected the benefits and evils of civilization," he explained. "They live in their own community, with almost no contact with the rest of the world. Only their leader can make decisions regarding interaction with people. Well, if they need to buy something, for example, he sends someone to the nearest town where there is a store, but they do not accept medicine. Therefore, it is unlikely that their Rosanna will be needed. Still, Mr. Renat, take me there," Kleber begged. "I won't rest until I find my wife." "I'm afraid they won't even talk to us." Mr. Renat shook his head, "but if it's necessary, then it will be done." So Renat took Kleber to the small community. When they got there, Ronaldo, the leader of the community, looked at the visitors who had been brought to him in surprise. Then he made a sign with his hand and remained alone with them. "What do you want here?" he asked calmly, looking at Kleber and his companion, whom he knew. "You know, Mr. Renat, that we have no relations with the outside world. We don't need doctors. Thank God, everyone here is alive and well. Look for your Rosanna somewhere else and go in peace." "I need to inspect everything," Kleber demanded. "No one will allow you to do that," Ronaldo smiled. "Then I will return with the police." "Come back, if you have permission," Ronaldo interrupted. After bidding farewell to the uninvited guests as soon as they left, Ronaldo walked calmly and resolutely to his son Emmanuel's house and closed the door behind him. "Was it you?" he asked sternly. "Did you break our rules? Did you bring the doctor here?" The bearded man fell at his father's feet. "Father, forgive me. I lied to you, but I can't live without Monica. The doctor saved my wife and your grandson. He will continue our lineage. He is our only hope. Father, I will accept any punishment. Just don't punish Monica and our newborn." "Where is the doctor?" Ronaldo asked. "I took her away. I showed her the way back to town. She's already home." Ronaldo closed his eyes, pursed his lips, and placed his hand on his son's disheveled head. "Well, may God forgive you for lying to your father. What is done in secret will be judged in secret. Get up. Let's go see my grandson." Upon returning to the city, Kleber walked with determination to his mother-in-law's house. He already knew what to do. First, he would gather all the local men. Then he would involve the police in the search, and then he would return to those strangers' settlement and search every corner. For he would definitely find Rosanna that day. He slammed the gate and Rosanna's mother immediately ran to the porch. Kleber, Rosanna is home. She came back 2 hours ago, saying she got lost in the forest. Kleber ran to his wife. She was sleeping, but as soon as he entered her, she opened her eyes. Kleber, my dear, I knew you would come. I saw you in a dream. Rosanna, you scared me so much. Where were you? I'll tell you everything, but only to you. But no one must know. Understand? I don't want these people to be harmed. Kleber, will you promise me? He nodded, listening to his wife's story. Kleber involuntarily clenched his fists. But every time Rosanna smiled at him, she said, everything is fine. Did you hear? Everything is really fine. But that's not all, Kleber. Dear, it seems that you, just like Emmanuel, will soon be able to hold your baby in your arms. Rosanna. Kleber hugged his wife tightly. Rosanna, finally, my beloved. Forgive me for everything. I'm so happy to be your husband. And I'm happy to be your wife. She laughed and kissed her husband. The next morning, when Kleber and Rosanna went out into the yard to get ready to go home, they were amazed to see several baskets full of mushrooms, fruit, cheese, milk, and other things on the porch. Thank you, Manuel, Rosanna said, waving to the dark figure standing at the edge of the forest clearing. The figure waved back and disappeared into the shadows of the trees. Kleber said nothing and just hugged his wife again. By the way, they're already waiting for you at the hospital. I apologized to Alexander and talked to his boss. He understood everything and said that you should return to work on Monday. Well, that's great. You are amazing. Rosanna smiled and kissed her husband. Kleber promised her that he would change his jealous ways with her, and as the months and years went by he kept his word, thus becoming an exemplary husband. I hope you enjoyed the story. Like, comment, and share. Thanks for watching.